Dạ con. Respected the noble community, before we go to do the offering the incense, please allow me to share a little bit before we live stream. Xin sư chú chân tàng dịch cho sẽ anh. So I will speak in Vietnamese and Brother Chân Tàng will be help me to translate into English. First is cái đầu tiên là khi mà mình đứng lên mà mình xá chào nhau, rồi sau đó mình hướng lên để mình dâng hương á, thì xin đại chúng mình đứng phía sau cái tòa cù thành một cái hàng.
So, dear Sangha, the first thing is that when we stand up and we bow to each other before the incense offering takes place. So what we do is we will stand behind our mats.
Và đến cái phần mà xưởng lễ lạy á, thì mình có thể di chuyển một chút xíu để mình có cái không gian để mình lạy xuống.
And when it is time for us to touch the earth, then we can move a little bit in order for us to have enough space to be able to touch the earth.
Và khi mà mình lạy á, thì đến cái câu xưởng mà to whom we bow in gratitude, thì ngay cái chữ mà to whom á, thì mình đưa tay lên trán của mình và mình để cái tay trên trán của mình, để khi mình nghe tiếng chuông thì mình cùng lạy xuống.
And when we touch the earth, then we will stand and join our palms until we hear the word, the line, to whom we bow in gratitude. And when we hear the word to whom, the two words to whom, then we will bring our palms up to our forehead. And when the sound of the bell is invited, then we will all touch the earth at the same time.
Sau khi đại chúng ngồi xuống mà đại chúng xích lên phía trên, thì xin những cái vị mà ngồi ở trên ghế á, thì xin vui lòng mình di chuyển cái ghế tới sát với cái hàng thứ ba, sát ở bên tường á, ngồi sát.
And once we finish touching the earth and it's time to sit down, so everyone will move up to fill the spaces. And for those who are sitting on a chair, then please kindly move your chair to the third row, so the last row nearest to the wall.
Khi mà đại chúng truyền những cái bạn giới, và trong suốt thời gian mà mình tụng giới, thì xin vui lòng khi mình mở cái lực tràng thì xin lực tràng cho có chánh niệm và tránh tạo tiếng động.
And when we pass down the recitation sheets, then please be mindful, and when we turn the pages to the recitation booklets, please do so mindfully in order not to make a noise.
Khi làm tác pháp yết ma thì mình phải đến cái câu mà hỏi mà có rõ ràng và đầy đủ không, thì mình phải chắp tay và mình thưa là rõ ràng đầy đủ. Nhưng mình không chắp tay, mình không thưa, thì giống như là mình không có tham dự vào cái tác pháp yết ma.
And when the Sangha Karman procedure takes place, then when the question is asked is everything clear and complete, then we all should join our palms and say clear and complete. Because if we do not, then that means we did not take part in the Sangha Karman procedure.
Và sau một cái giới mà mình hỏi trong 2 tuần qua, đại chúng có thực tập học hỏi cái giới đó không? Mình giữ im lặng cho đến khi nghe một tiếng chuông. Sau một tiếng chuông đó thì mình cùng lực trang qua một cái trang khác.
And when we listen to the mindfulness training and we hear the line, this is something mindfulness training, have you made an effort to study and practice it during the past 2 weeks? Then we will listen to one sound of the bell before we turn to the next page.
Dạ, xin cảm ơn đại chúng đã cho phép con được chia sẻ một vài điều như vậy, tại vì nó không có đúng không có sai vào trong cái nghi lễ, mà chỉ là tại vì mình đã có những cái sự quy định với nhau, cho nên mình làm chung với nhau cho nó đẹp, và nhiều khi lâu rồi đại chúng không có nhắc thì đại chúng quên.
And I would like to thank the Sangha finally for giving me the chance to share this with the Sangha, because there's no right or wrong in doing this, but sometimes we might forget, and we all agreed upon a certain way to do it, and so I would just like to remind everyone so we can do it beautifully.
Sáng hôm nay chúng ta sẽ tụng 14 giới bằng tiếng Anh. Xin cảm ơn đại chúng.
And this morning we shall recite the 14 mindfulness trainings in English. Thank you, Sangha.
In gratitude we offer this incense throughout space and time to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting careful efforts, wholehearted awareness, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. The one who bows and the one who is bowed to are both by nature empty, and therefore the communication between them is inexpressibly perfect. Our practice center is the net of Indra, reflecting all Buddhas everywhere. And with my person in front of each Buddha, I go with my whole life for refuge, offering light in the 10 directions, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, to whom we bow in gratitude. Teaching and living the way of awareness in the very midst of suffering and confusion. Shakyamuni Buddha, the fully enlightened one, to whom we bow in gratitude. Cutting through ignorance, awakening our hearts and our minds. Manjushri, the Bodhisattva of great understanding, to whom we bow in gratitude. Working mindfully, working joyfully, for the sake of all beings. Samantabhadra, the Bodhisattva of great action, to whom we bow in gratitude. Listening deeply, serving beings in countless ways. Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of great compassion, to whom we bow in gratitude. Fearless and persevering through realms of suffering and darkness. Kshitigarbha, the Bodhisattva of great aspiration, to whom we bow in gratitude. Mother of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and all beings, nourishing, holding, and healing all, Bodhisattva Gaya, Great Mother Earth, precious jewel of the cosmos, in gratitude. radiating light in all directions, source of life on earth. Mahavairochana Tathagata, Great Father, Son, Buddha of infinite light and life, to whom we bow in gratitude. Showing the way fearlessly and compassionately, the stream of all our ancestral teachers, to whom we bow in gratitude. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. The Dhamma is deep and lovely. We now have a chance to see, study, and to practice it. We love to realize its true meaning. The insight that brings us to the other shore. Avalokiteshvara, while practicing deeply with the insight that brings us to the other shore, suddenly discover that all of the five skandhas are equally empty, and with this realization he overcame all ill beings. Listen, Shariputra, this body itself is emptiness, and emptiness itself is this body. This body is not other than emptiness, and emptiness is not other than this body. The same is true of feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. Listen, Shariputra, all phenomena bear the mark of emptiness. Their true nature is the nature of no birth, no death, no being, no non-being, no defilement, no purity, no increasing, no decreasing. That is why in emptiness, body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness are not separate self-entities. The 18 realms of phenomena, which are the 6 sense organs, 6 sense objects,
Sangakaman posture.
Has the community of the Order of Interbeing assembled?
Yes, the community of the Order of Interbeing has assembled.
Is there harmony in the community?
Yes, there is harmony.
Is there anyone not able to be present who has asked to be represented, and have they declared themselves to have done their best to study and practice the mindfulness trainings?
Yes, Brother Chandra, there are a couple of reasons cannot be at recitation today. Yes, asked Brother Chandra to represent him, and he declares that he has done his best to study and practice mindfulness training. Brother Duknim is not able to be present at the recitation today because of ill health. He has asked Brother Chitam to represent him, and he declares he has done his best to study and practice the mindfulness training.
What is the reason for the community assembling today?
The community has assembled to practice the recitation of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing.
Noble community of the Order of Interbeing, please listen. Today, the 17th of November 2020, has been declared as the day to recite the 14 mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. The community has assembled at the appointed time and is ready to hear and recite the mindfulness trainings in an atmosphere of harmony. Thus, the recitation can proceed. Is this statement clear and complete? Clear and complete. Dear Sangha, this is the moment when we enjoy reciting the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. The 14 mindfulness trainings are the very essence of the Order of Interbeing. They are the torch lighting our path, the boat carrying us, the teacher guiding us. They allow us to touch the nature of interbeing in everything that is, and to see that our happiness is not separate from the happiness of others. Interbeing is not a theory, it is a reality that can be directly experienced by each of us at any moment in our daily life. The 14 mindfulness trainings help us cultivate concentration and insight, which free us from fear and the illusion of a separate self. Please listen to each mindfulness training with a serene mind. The mindfulness training serves as a clear mirror in which to look at ourselves. Say yes silently every time you see that you have made an effort to study, practice, and observe the mindfulness training right. The first mindfulness training, openness. Aware of the suffering created by fanaticism and intolerance, we are determined not to idolatrous about and bound to any doctrine, theory, and ideology, even Buddhist ones. We are committed to seeing the Buddhist teachings as a guiding means that help us develop our understanding and compassion. They are doctrines. They are not doctrines to fight, kill, or die for. We understand that fanaticism in its many forms is the result of perceiving things in a dualistic and discriminative manner. We will train ourselves to look at everything with openness and the insight of interbeing in order to transform dogmatism and violence in ourselves and in the world. This is the first of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The second mindfulness training, non-attachment to views. Aware of the suffering created by attachment to views and wrong perceptions, we are determined to avoid being narrow-minded and bound to present views. We are committed to learning and practicing non-attachment to views and being open to others' experiences and insights in order to benefit from the collective wisdom. Insight is revealed through the practice of compassionate listening, deep looking, and letting go of notions rather than through the accumulation of intellectual knowledge. We are aware that the knowledge we presently possess is not changeless, absolute truth. Truth is found in life, and we will observe life within and around us in every moment, ready to learn throughout our lives. This is the second of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The third mindfulness training, freedom of thought. Aware of the suffering brought about when we impose our view on others, we are determined not to force others, even our children, by any means whatsoever, such as authority, threat, money, propaganda, or indoctrination, to adopt our views. We are committed to respecting the right of others to be different, to choose what to believe and how to decide. We will, however, learn to help others let go of and transform narrowness through loving speech and compassionate dialogue. This is the third of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The fourth mindfulness training, taking care of suffering. Aware that looking deeply at the nature of suffering can help us develop understanding and compassion, we are determined to come home to ourselves, to recognize, accept, embrace, and listen to our own suffering with the energy of mindfulness. We will do our best not to run away from our suffering or cover it up through consumption, but practice conscious breathing and walking to look deeply into the roots of our suffering. We know we can realize the path leading to the transformation of suffering only when we understand deeply the roots of suffering. Once we have understood our own suffering, we will be able to understand the suffering of others. We are committed to finding ways, including personal contact and the use of telephone, electronic, audiovisual, and other means, to be with those who suffer, so we can help them transform their suffering into compassion, peace, and joy. This is the fourth of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The fifth mindfulness training, compassionate, healthy living. Aware that true happiness is rooted in peace, solidity, freedom, and compassion, we are determined not to accumulate wealth while millions are hungry and dying, nor to take as the aim of our life fame, power, wealth, or sensual pleasure, which can bring much suffering and despair. We will practice looking deeply into how we nourish our body and mind with the 4 kinds of nutriments, namely edible foods, sense impressions, volition, and consciousness. We are committed not to gamble or to use alcohol, drugs, or any other products which bring toxins into our own and the collective body and consciousness, such as certain websites, electronic games, music, TV programs, films, magazines, books, and conversations. We will consume in a way that preserves compassion, peace, joy, and good health in our bodies and consciousness, in the collective bodies and consciousness of our families, our society, and the earth. This is the fifth of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The sixth mindfulness training, taking care of anger. Aware that anger blocks communication and creates suffering, we are committed to taking care of the energy of anger when it arises, recognizing and transforming the seeds of anger that lie deep in our consciousness. When anger manifests, we are determined not to do or say anything but to practice mindful breathing or mindful walking, to acknowledge, embrace, and look deeply into our anger. We know that the roots of anger are not outside of ourselves, but can be found in our wrong perceptions and lack of understanding of the suffering in ourselves and others. By contemplating impermanence, we will be able to look with the eyes of compassion at ourselves and at those we think are the cause of our anger, and to recognize the preciousness of our relationships. We will practice right diligence in order to nourish our capacity of understanding, love, joy, and inclusiveness, gradually transforming our anger, violence, and fear, and helping others do the same. This is the 6th of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The 7th mindfulness training, dwelling happily in the present moment. Aware that life is available only in the present moment, we are committed to training ourselves to live deeply each moment of daily life. We try not to lose ourselves in dispersion or be carried away by regrets about the past, worries about the future, or craving, anger, or jealousy in the present. We will practice mindful breathing to be aware of what is happening in the here and the now. We are determined to learn the art of mindful living by touching the wondrous, refreshing, and healing elements that are inside and around us in all situations. In this way, we will be able to cultivate seeds of joy, peace, love, and understanding in ourselves, thus facilitating the work of transformation and healing in our consciousness. We are aware that true happiness depends primarily on our mental attitude and not on external condition, and that we can live happily in the present moment simply by remembering that we already have more than enough conditions to be happy. This is the 7th of the 14th mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The 8th mindfulness training, true community and communication. Aware that lack of communication always brings separation and suffering, we are committed to training ourselves in the practice of compassionate listening and loving speech. Knowing that true community is rooted in inclusiveness and in the concrete practice of the harmony of views, thinking, and speech, we will practice to share our understanding and experiences with members in our community in order to arrive at a collective insight. We are determined to learn to listen deeply without judging or reacting, and refrain from uttering words that can create discord or cause the community to break. Whenever difficulties arise, we will remain in our Sangha and practice looking deeply into ourselves and others to recognize all the causes and conditions, including our own habit energies that have brought about the difficulties. We will take responsibility for the ways we may have contributed to the conflict and keep communication open. We will not behave as a victim, but be active in finding ways to reconcile and resolve all conflicts, however small. This is the 8th of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The 9th mindfulness training, truthful and loving speech. Aware that words can create happiness or suffering, we are committed to learning to speak truthfully, lovingly, and constructively. We will use only words that inspire joy, confidence, and hope, as well as promote reconciliation and peace in ourselves and among other people. We will speak and listen in a way that can help ourselves and others to transform suffering and see the way out of difficult situations. We are determined not to say untruthful things for the sake of personal interest or to impress other people, nor to utter words that might cause division or hatred. We will protect the happiness and the harmony of our Sangha by refraining from speaking about the fault of other persons in their absence, and always ask ourselves whether our perceptions are correct. We will speak only the intentions to understand and to help transform the situation. We will not spread rumors nor criticize or condemn things of which we are not sure. We will do our best to speak out about situations of injustice, even when doing so may make difficulties for us or threaten our safety. This is the 9th of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The 10th mindfulness training, protecting and nourishing the Sangha. Aware that the essence and aim of a Sangha is the practice of understanding and compassion, we are determined not to use the Buddhist community for personal power or profit, or transform our community into a political instrument. As members of a spiritual community, we should nonetheless take a clear stand against oppression and injustice. We should strive to change the situation without taking sides in a conflict. We are committed to learning to look with the eyes of interbeing and to see ourselves and others as cells in one Sangha body. As a true cell in the Sangha body, generating mindfulness, concentration, and insight to nourish ourselves and the whole community. Each of us is at the same time a cell in the Buddha body. We will actively build brotherhood and sisterhood, flow as a river, and practice to develop the three real powers: understanding, love, and cutting through afflictions to realize collective awakening. This is the 10th of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The 11th mindfulness training, right livelihood. Aware that great violence and injustice have been done to our environment and society, we are committed not to live with a vocation that is harmful to humans and nature. We will do our best to select a livelihood that contributes to the well-being of all species on Earth and helps realize our ideal of understanding and compassion. Aware of economic, political, and social realities around the world, as well as our interrelationship with the ecosystem, we are determined to behave responsibly as consumers and as citizens. We will not invest in or purchase from companies that contribute to the depletion of natural resources, harm the earth, and deprive others of their chance to live. This is the 11th of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The 12th mindfulness training, reverence for life. Aware that much suffering is caused by war and conflict, we are determined to cultivate non-violence, compassion, and the insight of interbeing in our daily lives, and promote peace education, mindful mediation, and reconciliation within families, communities, ethnic and religious groups, nations, and in the world. We are committed not to kill and not to let others kill. We will not support any act of killing in the world, in our thinking or in our way of life. We will diligently practice deep looking with our Sangha to discover better ways to protect life, prevent war, and build peace. This is the 12th of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to practice, study, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The 13th mindfulness training, generosity. Aware of the suffering caused by exploitation, social injustice, stealing, and oppression, we are committed to cultivating generosity in our way of thinking, speaking, and acting. We will practice loving kindness in working for the well-being of people, animal, plants, and minerals, and share our time, energy, and material resources with those who are in need. We are determined not to steal, not to possess anything that should belong to others. We will respect the property of others, but will try to prevent others from profiting from human suffering and the suffering of other beings. This is the 13th of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The 14th mindfulness training, True Love, for lay members. Aware that sexual desire is not love, and that sexual relations motivated by craving cannot dissipate the feeling of loneliness, but will create more suffering, frustration, and isolation. We are determined not to engage in sexual relations without mutual understanding, love, and a deep, long-term commitment made known to our family and friends. Seeing that body and mind are in unison, we are committed to learning appropriate ways to take care of our sexual energy and cultivating loving kindness, compassion, joy, and inclusiveness for our own happiness and the happiness of others. We must be aware of future suffering that may be caused by sexual relations. We know that to preserve the happiness of ourselves and others, we must respect the rights and commitments of ourselves and others. We will do everything in our power to protect children from sexual abuse and to protect couples and families from being broken by sexual misconduct. We will treat our bodies with compassion and respect. We are determined to look deeply into the 4 nutriments and learn ways to preserve and channel our vital energies, sexual, breath, spirit, for the realization of our bodhisattva ideal. We will be fully aware of the responsibility of bringing new lives into the world and will meditate regularly upon their future environment. For monastic members, aware that the deep aspiration of a monk or a nun can only be realized when he or she wholly leaves behind the bonds of sensual love, we are committed to practicing chastity and to helping others protect themselves. We are aware that loneliness and suffering cannot be alleviated through a sexual relationship, but through practicing loving kindness, compassion, joy, and inclusiveness. We know that a sexual relationship will destroy our monastic life, prevent us from realizing our ideal of serving living beings, and harm others. We will learn appropriate ways to take care of our sexual energy. We are determined not to suppress or mistreat our body, or look upon our body as only an instrument, but will learn to handle our body with compassion and respect. We will look deeply into the 4 nutriments in order to preserve and channel our vital energies, sexual, breath, spirit, for the realization of our Bodhisattva ideal. This is the 14th of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
Brothers and sisters, we have recited the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing as the community has wished. We thank all of our sisters and brothers for helping us to do it serenely.